Howdy folks, welcome back to Boondockery. I got off work about 2 hours ago, went to the house, gathered up a whole bunch of stuff, threw it in a Jeep, and here I am. I'm going to do a little wild camping this weekend. I brought a lot of extra stuff with me, some experiments I want to try, some gear I want to try out, and all those things may possibly be videos in the future. I'm just trying to get me a little woods time. Now, it's getting dark quick. It's not too far away from 7 o'clock. So I'm going to go ahead and cook some food. And as long as we have light, I'm going to film it. You all have seen me put up my camp many times, so I'm not going to be filming that tonight. So I'm going to ground my gear, get my cooking stuff out, and get to it. Well, I've got my kitchen set up, and I'm ready to get started. Tonight, I'm going to be having sirloin tips with sauteed mushrooms and onions over egg noodles. Ooh! Tonight I'm going to be using my Altoid 10 gelled alcohol fuel to cook my meal. I have this small container here. I actually, years ago, I was on a health kick, and there was a protein supplement that came in these test tube type things, and I kept these, and I found them in my bushcraft container bin that I keep. All kinds of containers I think might have a decent use for bushcrafting, and this one definitely did. And that's why I used to put my gelled alcohol in. And with the last time I used this, it was at the Hermits Cave cooking, and about half of it was fine to cook my meal. I went ahead and brought 2 of these today because I'm going to be cooking a couple meals tonight and tomorrow. And I was using a big tongue depressor to get this stuff out. Well, I started looking through a bunch of my bushcraft utensils, and I found a MRE spoon. And I simply trimmed up the edges so it will fit down in there, and it scoops quite nicely. And I'm going to spread this out a little bit, and it should have a decent even burn just like it did the last time I used it. And this is so much easier to get out now. And if by any chance I don't wind up using all this, that's perfectly fine. I'll put the lid back on it, and it will stay moist enough for me to add a little bit more to for my breakfast meal. There, I think we're good. Go ahead and light that up. I absolutely love these Bic stem lighters. They're really small and compact. They work very similar to the larger stem lighters that you use for your charcoal grill. And the first thing we're going to do is we are going to start a little bit of bacon going. And that bacon is going to be the fat portion to be able to saute my onions so they don't get all sticky when the sugars start to cook out of them. And I don't really care what this bacon looks like because I'm not making a fine breakfast with beautifully sliced slices of bacon. I just want to cook them. They're definitely going to go in the menu, in the entree, but they don't have to be pretty. They just have to provide that fat that I want. While that bacon's simmering away, I'm going to go ahead and dice up my mushrooms. I pre-prepped a good bit of stuff at the house. I went ahead and sliced up some onions that I'm going to be using in this. And have my mushrooms here. I'm going to dice those up real quick. But one thing I wanted to remind you is I've got a video on how to make these freeze-dried meal koozies. And I've used these numerous times to be able to transport food I want to keep cold into the wood smithy. You get a couple of those thin cold packs in there, and things will stay very cold throughout an entire day of very hot weather. I've tried this in 85 plus degree temperatures. Went out in the morning, and by that evening everything in it was still cold. So you might want to check that video out if you're interested. And here's the beef. Oh, it's so good. Well, I better start slicing those mushrooms. Now, I've been using this Will Do mess kit for quite a while now, and I'm becoming a fan very quickly. It's a nice set. I've got a few mess kits, but I'm not really a mess kit kind of guy for the most part, but this really works great. It's got a lot of things. I'll do a video on it. I'm pretty sure I like it enough now to where I'm going to, who knows, I'll probably maybe even shoot it tomorrow, who knows. But I'm going to get my open now, and I'm using half of the mushrooms tonight, half of the mushrooms tomorrow, and we should have plenty for both. I'm just going to quarter these and put them in my little bowl here. Might have to wind up getting the other bowl. That one mushroom filled up a good bit of space in there. Now, the one thing with mushrooms, if you come up really small, really thin, they shrivel up really, really good, and you lose a lot of that nice mushroom quality. You get a lot of flavor, but I like having that mouth feel of the mushroom. It's got just a little bit of a bite, so that's one of the last things I put in. The mushrooms, I'll get one more, that way I have 5 for tonight and 5 for tomorrow. And I'm going to flip this real quick. Okay. This bacon, unfortunately, unfortunately for me, for this, is very lean. And it's a brand we have at our local grocer, and it's absolutely fantastic bacon. And normally, for like breakfast, I absolutely love it because it is lean. But for something like this, you probably need just a little more fat. Well, apparently I had a little snafu with my remote, and every time that I thought I was pushing record, I was pushing stop. So what I've done is the bacon was starting to stick a little bit on the meaty portion, so I removed the fatty portions and left those in here. And I put my onions in and have begun to saute those. And they're looking well enough for me to add my sirloin tips. So far, the gelled alcohol is doing great, keeping a decent temperature. Oh, listen to that sizzle. And I am just going to continually move this around till we get those pretty much done, and then I'll add in the mushrooms. Well, those tips are looking pretty good. I'm going to go ahead and put the mushrooms in. And let those soak up some of that juice and some of the fat there. Now I'm going to put just a tiny little bit of salt and pepper. And I'm not a sponsor, so don't take it like that. I use Redmond's salt, and this is like Salt Plus. There's all kinds of other minerals and stuff in it. It tastes absolutely fantastic. And usually just plain old ground pepper. But that little shaker actually comes with the will do set. So I'm going to go ahead and work this around until those mushrooms look nice, and then we'll be ready to move on to the noodles. Okay, my flame has died out just in time. I mean, that is just perfect. Now, while I was sauteing these mushrooms in with the beef and the onions, I went ahead and crumpled up that bacon and put it in here as well. And I put the lid on it for just a minute or two to soften that bacon a little bit. I'm going to go ahead and put that in one of my containers from my will do kit. And we're going to set this off to the side. Oh, this smells absolutely fantastic. And I'm not worried about the goo in the bottom or any little bits and pieces, because I'm going to be boiling my noodles in this, and that's actually going to impart a lot of the flavor into the noodles. And instead of using the gelled alcohol fuel to boil my water, which would take forever, I'm going to be using my Altoid tin Perlite stove to do that. I'll go ahead and get that set up. Well, just to show you what I can do, again, with this freeze-dried milk koozie, I have my sirloin tips and mushrooms and onions and stuff in here, and in order to keep them warm, I just put them right inside here, close it up, and while I'm waiting for my noodles to cook, they'll stay nice and hot, and I'll be able to put everything together and have a hot meal. Okay, I believe I'm ready. Now I've got my Perlite stove open. Now I'm taking a suggestion from one of the comments one of my viewers made, and I cut a steel screen to put over top of my Perlite to prevent it from spilling. I was carrying another pouch, a Ziploc baggie of Perlite, just in case I were to actually spill it, I could replace it. And this is the trial run. This is the test run. You get to see it first, folks. I'm just going to go ahead and push that down in there. And there is an inner lip to the Altoid tin. And that should hold it in place. And we're going to see how this works. And if it doesn't work, I'll take it off and I'll use it without. But I thought it was a brilliant suggestion. And right off the top of my head, I can't remember who suggested it, but there was just one suggestion. So if you look through the comments, you will be able to see who that is on my Perlite stove video. Now, got my alcohol in there, and this is actually the 3 tablespoon Perlite stove. So it's got a little more in there. Well, that's looking pretty good. We'll go ahead and put some water in the pot. With all those nice juices in there. And that looks good. And I'm going to go ahead and put my noodles in there. I'm not cooking at home. I'm not going to wait for this to come to a boil before I put my noodles in. I'm going to put them in here and keep an eye on it. And as it begins to steam, I'll be checking on it, and I want my noodles al dente. I'm going to do a little flavor boost here with Better Than Bouillon roasted beef base. This stuff is fantastic. It's beef broth heaven in a jar. I cannot believe how good this stuff is. I tried it just because I didn't get my regular Weilers because they were out years ago at the grocery store, and they had this. I figured, oh wow, that's sort of expensive, but I'm sort of stuck. Now that little dollop I put in there is going to be more than sufficient for this amount of water with the noodles. This stuff is the closest stuff you can actually have to like real broth, and the flavor's fantastic, and it has a tremendous shelf life. And literally, I probably put just a little too much in there. That jar will last you a very long time. If you're using it for flavors or seasonings in foods, you don't have to use much at all, but I want to turn this water into beef broth. So all that beef flavor goes into the noodles. And who knows, I might actually even drain off the broth and drink a little bit of it tonight if it gets chilly. And it's supposed to. It's supposed to get down to 50 tonight. So we're going to go ahead and let this do its thing, and I'll bring you back. Time to check those noodles. The one thing about adding the noodles when the water's cold is they will actually have a shorter cook time, so you actually have to like taste test it. Those are absolutely perfect. Absolutely perfect. So I'm going to go ahead and set this off to the side and extinguish that fire. I don't think that there's any issue with the intensity of the flame being affected by the screen. That looks pretty intense. I'll get my glove on here. Here we go. That is completely on there, and it's gasified so well that the gases are still coming out of that. Let's see if I can set that off to the side here and see if that will lessen. It's lessened quite a bit, but we will see. Anyway, we're ready. I'll find something to do with that, and then I will strain off my noodles. Literally all I did was blow it out. I just blew it out. Let's strain those noodles. Now I am actually going to save a little bit of this broth in a cup to have it for a little later. Because it is delish. Now we'll go ahead and strain the rest of this off. This also comes with the Will-Do kit, and it works particularly well with any rectangular cook kit. And she's ready to go ahead and add the meat, mushrooms, and onions and bacon. And here we go. Oh wow, that's still good and hot. Very nice. And we'll just go ahead and add that in there. Everything's out. Let's go ahead and toss that. This is probably more food than I need to eat, but I am very hungry, and it's been a very long day and a very long week, and I am going to start off enjoying my weekend with some fantastic food. Bon appetit. Let's try it out. The noodles are cooked perfectly, at least to my liking. And all that flavor from the better than bouillon and all of the goo that was in the bottom of the cook pot really add a tremendous amount of flavor for this. It doesn't need any salt or pepper in addition to what I already put in it. Noodles are great. Got a little piece of beef here, try that. That is excellent. Try a mushroom. Was able to get all the flavor from all of the juices and the sugars from the onions and the grease from the bacon, the smoke flavor from the bacon, and here is a little piece of the bacon. Oh man, that bacon, because I fried it and then I added it in at the very end to saute it. It tastes exactly like country ham. And I love country ham. There's a little bit of onion. Wow, this is fantastic. I'm going to go ahead and enjoy this. And the sun looks like it's pretty well ready to set. I'm used to setting up camp in the dark if I have to. There's no problem whatsoever. Headlamp, but as far as filming it goes, it's not going to be a it's not going to be a visual experience. So I'm not going to do that. I might say a good night tonight, but if I don't, I'll see you in the morning. Morning, folks. After I got my belly full last night, set up camp, I was probably pushing close to 10, so I went ahead and just turned in. Just sat down for, I don't know, 15-20 minutes before I actually got in the hammock and just relaxed for a little while. But the limit for me personally, with the insulation that I have with the underquilt and the top quilt with the One Wind products, these are all summer weight. My limit's 55 degrees now. It dropped down to at least 50. It might have dropped down a little bit lower. And I woke up around 3:30, somewhere around there, and I was cold. You know, I wasn't cold, I wasn't shivering, but you know what it's like. If you've been camping, when you get that slight little bit of a chill, it's just enough to be annoying. Well, that was it. And since it's summer, I usually don't take my sleep kit with me. And my sleep kit has a complete base layer. I have glove liners, I have heavy wool socks, and I have a sleep cap. Now, the one thing I noticed is that my head was particularly cold. So I just took the top quilt here, pulled it up, and I wrapped the corner of it up and around the back of my head. Made all the difference. I was able to get another couple hours sleep just by being able to retain that body heat that's being escaped from my noggin. And so that was pretty good. Another thing, in the winter months when I hammock camp, you know, I'll have a jacket, you know, other things that are soft, and I will usually bundle those up or put them in a bag of some type, one of the bags that my top quilt, bottom quilt, something like that goes in, and I stuff it up pretty good and put it underneath my knees. Well, it's warm, and I didn't think anything of it. Well, last night my knees kept reminding me, John, idiot, you're not a spring chicken anymore. Your knees are bad. Arthritis ain't no joke. You need to take care of yourself. And it's true. That was completely on me. I probably could have put something in there, but I was more worried about, like if I were to put a pack in there, I was more worried about what the damage of the buckles and the hard edges of some of the webbing and things like that would do to the hammock. So I toughed it out. But didn't get a great night's sleep, but almost all of it was on me. It definitely wasn't the hammock. And but yeah, I'm liking it. I think part of my time while I'm out here, I'm going to be filming some videos on the One Win products, and you'll be seeing those as they go. They should be fairly short, but direct and to the point, so that way you can see it much more detailed up close, and I can talk a little bit more about it. I guess it would be a review, but I probably won't throw out all the facts and figures of, you know, dimensions and weights and things like that. Those are things you can easily find online if you're interested. But just for practical use, yeah, I think that I've played with it enough to where I can definitely give you an honest opinion of how I feel about the design and the quality. This morning I'm going to be making some breakfast. I want to do some breakfast wraps, and first of all I need to get another cup of joe in me, and then I need to do my dishes from last night. I was a bad boy. I didn't do my dishes from last night. I just went and slid everything back inside my freeze-dried meal koozie, put it in the bag, hoisted it up, and so no critters would get into it. But I've got to do my dishes this morning before I can have my breakfast. Most of the time when I go hiking and camping, and it's just me, I'm not filming, it's not a YouTube thing, I rarely cook. And if I go out with some friends and something like that, and we're not going to go really far, you know, that right there is more of the time to where, you know, all of us cook something and we combine it all together. We pretty much have a nice meal, and everyone enjoys that. But more often than not, I'll either, you know, go completely cold with my food. That's food that doesn't need to be heated, doesn't need to be cooked, and it's pretty much hand to mouth. It's just fuel. That way I can go where I need to go, want to go, and just experience where I am and enjoy it without having to worry about stopping and pulling out the stove and boiling up water, whatever. When I do have hot meals, it's almost always Mountain House meals, and occasionally I'll actually even go with the MRE, because I can either heat it up or I can eat it cold. But for, you know, today, well, you know, I've cooked and I've got to do dishes. So I just wanted to show you how I do that. Oftentimes if I have a single pot, let's see, this is pretty much the only thing I've dirtied. I'll go ahead and put some water on that, put it on the stove, get the flame going underneath of it, heat it up just enough, and I'll constantly keep touching it to where it's good and warm, not piping hot, not scalding me hot. And I'll remove it from the flame. I'll put a drop or two of dishwashing liquid in there, and then I'll just wash it there and do the same thing for rinsing. Put a little more water in there and let it heat up a little bit, swish it around, boom, it's done. Then I dry it off, or just hang it to dry, set it off the side to where it will dry on its own, and I'm done with it. Well, I dirtied quite a few dishes, and just like when I go out with my buddies and we all cook, that requires a little more effort and a little more, I guess, complexity in how I clean. So this is my dishwashing kit. It sticks right in the back of my pack, super easy, super compact, because it's good and flat. Let me show you what I got in here. I have a drying towel, and this is essentially just a bathroom washcloth, a little bit on the large side. This right here is what my dish rag is. It's synthetic, and because it's like this mesh material, I can use it almost like a scrub brush, but it's not abrasive, so I don't have to worry about damaging the surface of whatever my cookware is. I have a soda bottle blank filled with dishwashing liquid, and that right there will last me a couple years easily, because I just use a small drop or two because of the small volume of water I'm going to be using to wash with. And then finally, I have 2 military surplus wash basins, and if I'm not mistaken, I believe these are German. I'm pretty sure they were a foreign military, but the date on them is 1986. Hello 80s! But you can see these are pretty decent sized, and when you put a decent amount of water in these, they hold open pretty easily, and as you can see, they're very compact, completely waterproof. I would use one for my dishwater and one for my rinse water. Pretty much what I'm going to do today is sort of like a mix between the two. I'm going to heat up my water in my pan. I'm going to wash everything out of that pan, and then I'm going to wash the pan, and then I'm going to heat up some water and rinse everything off in one of these. So, time to do the dishes. No, perfect. Now I'm going to go through the same process again, except this time I'm actually going to let that water get a lot hotter when I put it in the basin, and then I will add cold water to it to where it's good and warm enough to be able to rinse off all those dishes adequately enough. So this is going to come pretty hot, and then I'll add it into that basin, and I will adjust it with the temperature of some cold water. Okay, the alcohol on my Perlite stove is completely burnt out, And that is good and hot. Not quite boiling, but pretty dang close. One thing I've noticed, the steel mesh screen that I put in there definitely lessens the intensity of the flame. It takes a lot longer for water to boil now than what it did without the screen in there. So I'm going to play around with that some more. This is great because you don't have to worry about the perlite spilling out. But if you need hot water fast, you would really not want to have that in there, because it boils water very quickly without that mesh in there. Okay, a little cooler water in there. I'll go ahead and finish rinsing these out and bring it back. Now everything's been washed, rinsed, and dried and ready to go ahead and put in my pack. But I still need to make breakfast, so I get to do all of that again. So I think you understand why I enjoy meals that doesn't require me to do so many dishes so frequently. But anyway, when I do need to, that's how I do it. Okay, now I'm ready to dirty some more dishes. Okay, I'm going to be making breakfast wraps today. And we've got some extra sharp cheddar cheese, some mushrooms, some country sausage by Tennessee Pride, and some onions. Got a couple tortillas, farm fresh eggs. We raise laying hens, and these things, once you've eaten one of these eggs, you never want to eat store-bought eggs ever again. Now I'm going to be dicing some of these things up really small to go into the mix. So I have a cutting board, I have my Opinel. I'm going to be scrambling the eggs in this small little cup. And let's see, I think that as I go, I'll be putting the diced up stuff in here, so I can just put that into the pot. And got a fork for whisking the eggs, and I've got a little teeny tiny itsy bitsy silicone spatula that I'm going to be using to stir that stuff around in my cook pot so I don't damage that anodized coating, and of course salt and pepper. I'm going to be using my gelled alcohol for this one. It's a slower, more controlled burn. And last night's meal took just a little over half. So we're going to go ahead and use the second half today. This hack on the MRE spoon really worked out great. I can reach all the way down in there now. Just a little bit to go. And I think that will be sufficient. Now I will just be dumping all of this stuff in here at one time. And we're going to brown that sausage in with the mushrooms and the onions. Okay. Oh yeah, that's ready. Now I'm going to pour over my scrambled eggs over top of that. And a little salt and pepper. There we go. Now, work this sort of slow. Let it do its thing. There we go. This portion is finished. I'm going to transfer this over into the large will-do cup that I have. Then we'll get the tortillas packed. Okay, let's load up these tortillas. This extra sharp cheddar cheese is produced by an Amish company not too far from where I live. And our local grocer always stocks it. It's just absolutely fantastic stuff. Oh, that looks like it's about the size for me. Oh, I know I've made way too much. That's okay, I can eat it out of the bowl as I'm eating my tortillas too. Now the one thing I forgot was my Cholula hot sauce. But that's okay. This is going to be absolutely fantastic all by itself. And no, I have never worked for Chipotle. You could probably already tell that. Oh no. Okay, I'm going to put this back on the fire and brown it on both sides, make it sort of crispy. That way it holds together really well when I'm eating it. Okay. Yeah, I have just enough heat coming out of that. I'm going to stir that up just a tiny little bit with a stick. Oh yeah, it's good and gooey still. Get out of there, stick. Get out of there. Okay. And for about the first 60 seconds, I'm going to leave this lid on it. Let it reheat just a little bit better. Okay. Oh, that looks perfect. A little bit of sticking. That's okay though. Okay. Pat those down a little bit. Another 60 seconds should be good. Okay. Excellent. Excellent. Oh, perfect. Okay. Yeah, it's breakfast time. I love toasting, or I guess you call it toasting, but heating up the tortillas in a skillet. It makes it easier to handle. They hold together better, and I think it enhances the flavor of the tortilla. Dang, that's good. I really wish I would have brought my Cholula. It'd be a real good compliment with that onion and the extra sharp cheddar. This is definitely going to set me up right for the rest of the day. I'm going to go ahead and continue to enjoy this. Wow, that was a fantastic breakfast. And I'm just a little bit full. I'm really not used to eating that much food, either last night or this morning. And usually one serving does me, but I haven't quite gotten the serving sizes down for wild camping. And I usually I always bring extra Ziploc bags, so what I usually wind up doing is zipping it up and eating it again for the next meal. But I had to cook breakfast for you guys, so I wound up stuffing myself, and that's okay. I'll hike it off. But everything has been washed, rinsed, dried a second time. Everything's stowed and ready for me to load in the pack. I had no clue what I was going to do when I came out as far as shooting a wild camp video, but I guess this one is going to be all about cooking. So I hope you enjoyed it. Well, folks, as always, thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you next time. Howdy, folks. Welcome back to Boondockery. I'm off on a little solo day. I'm off on a very late I'm I'm going through the whole weekend, doing whatever I can squeeze in, experimenting with some stuff. So future videos.